eyebrows as if he knew it's not going to be easy for him. But yesterday he had a very good blitzkrieg. And the Sveshnikov is indeed coming with that e5 move. These two, they know each other really well. They have worked together. But not for this match. I mean, for the last World Championship match between Caruana and Carlsen. So no secret to be revealed here. Nepomniachtchi.
Carlsen going back to this knight b8 variation,
right.
He had left it a bit for this knight e7 one, and he played both against Fabiano Caruana the last round of the World Chess Championship and against Sergei Karyakin in Shamkir.
Mixing up pleasures between knight b8, knight e7, everything seems to go his way, and the Sveshnikov has really become his new love against e4. And still in his prep, 5:03 as you can see on his clock.
A little bit of a different approach here from Nepomniachtchi compared to the World Championship. Playing a quick f4 against f5 instead of something more tame like bishop d2 or king h1, which has been seen before, even against the f5 move order.
Well, Alejandro, I'm sure you can give us a lot of nice explanations about this line. You must have looked at them inside out during the November World Championship match.
Oh man, that is quite a blur. We looked at so many variations during that match. It was hard to even keep track of them. I don't know how Fabi even retained half of what we showed him. It was so much information.
But at least the Sveshnikov is kind of a fun opening. I understand that looking at it day and night certainly kills the fun a bit, but it was not like...
It wasn't so bad.
It wasn't so bad. But
it was better than the Berlin endgame.
Yeah, because, you know, when Kramnik found, he didn't invent the Berlin defense, but he had this idea of playing the Berlin defense against Kasparov, the match 2000 in London, when he became the world champion. His seconds, they were like Evgeny Bareyev, Lautier, Iescas, and a few others. They were getting completely crazy, completely disgusted with chess, looking at those Berlin endgames. And I think it was Bareyev who wrote a book about the match and his experience as a second of Vladimir Kramnik, and he related that disgust of getting completely disgusted and couldn't look at chess anymore for months after the match.
Take a look at this, guys. Magnus Carlsen's preparation. He has taken absolutely no time on the clock.
Unbelievable.
Just been blitzing out his moves at insane speed.
Yeah, it's probably no prep anymore, but his moves feel logical and he just moves. Yeah,
it's a very natural position for Black to play. You want some important squares to be controlled by you. Specifically, e5 is paramount in this variation. That's your entire line of defense to be controlling in this square. So the move bishop f6 comes as a very natural one. Here, bishop takes d4. It's a little too much to take with the c pawn, so you really do have to take with the queen. But that allows a rook to land on e5 at some point. And I expect Black's moves to be very correct. Rook e4.
Queen d3 has
I
to be
expect
played.
at some point you'll see queen c7. You'll see another rook swinging to e8 once I solve my problem on a6.
It could be the trend.
Queen
the
c7,
Carlsen
can he take
trend.
bishop a6?
Yeah, maybe he wants to give up the pawn. I mean, this would be typical Magnus in these, you know, just don't care about my queenside pawn. I'm going to mate you later on. But of course, a5 I mean, why not play a5?
a5 looks like a very natural move in this position. A lot of the times with the bishop, the dark square bishop still alive, you see a nice bishop on e5, but the bishop on f2 is targeting this pawn on b6. With the bishops off the board, the pawn on b6 feels much more secure, and the move a5 definitely making more sense.
But he's still contemplating.
Also fixing the weakness on the light square on a4.
Exactly. I had this bishop d7 showing some, well, eyeing on the pawn.
a5 and queen e8. I think he's thinking about a5 and bishop b5. And he feels that it might fizzle out, and it won't be enough then for Black if the bishops get traded.
Well, maybe actually he's trying to figure out whether he should fight for the control of this e file, because here after a5, rook a e1, I mean, it looks like...
But then you have to be careful about your a4 pawn.
Yeah, f5 is also in the air if you take on a4. So
I could play something like queen e8 here, for example.
Queen e8.
And rook e4, fe4, and then you lose the a4 pawn.
It's tricky. Maybe, I mean, this is a bit risky for white, maybe, but who knows, something like this and trying to... I think black should be fine, but
And we already have an important result as Maxime Vachier-Lagrave has drawn his game.
against Dingliren with black.
Yeah, very solid player there, hard to beat, but a very quick draw there.
Dingliren had, I think, lost against Amin. Was it?
Yes.
Yeah, he had lost against Amin in the previous round, and you could see how dejected he was. So with white now against MVL, he just went for a draw. Actually, against Nakamura 2 rounds ago, it was exactly the same. Went into this Catalan, simplified, offered a draw. So
Magnus in a tank here. He's been thinking for over a minute now.
Actually, almost 2.
this is still the position on the board.
Yeah, let's remember that for Dingliren, it's important to keep his composure. Tanya, you've been mentioning the Grand Chess Tour points are important for these players. Dingliren is part of the tour, and he knows that scoring above the 50% mark is very, very important for him. Keep that up until the end.
Well, what is Carlsen thinking about?
I don't
He
know.
wants to keep chances alive in this
Queen
position. And
C8, I think, if I have seen right.
Queen
Yeah,
C8 and just B3.
Yeah, and it's a move that he could have played very quickly, instead taking just a bit too much time. It's been one of his
Yeah.
problems in the Blitz.
He didn't really show today yet, but now is really a moment when he thought for.
So Bishop
yeah,
A6
two
is
and a
not
half
possible
minutes.
because of Rook E3.
Well, it is
Bishop
possible.
A6.
I'm not sure he wants to do it, but Bishop A6, Rook E3. I still have Queen C4. I'm
And
not
then just
seeing.
take on C3.
Yeah, take on C3, but again, I'm not losing material.
Yeah.
I can take on C5 and go back to C4.
That's what's happening.
If you go back to C4,
There's no tactics, so
That's
I'm
the
okay.
position.
Bishop A4, but
No, Bishop A4 will always run into
yeah,
Bishop
the
B5.
pin. Yes.
And this
Well-
is exactly what
So
we're
we have
getting.
it on the board, and now Bishop C4, because Bishop B7, you've got Rook B8 or Rook A7, so he has to come back.
But even that's not
He
so
can play
bad,
Bishop-
right? Bishop B7, Rook A7, Bishop C6 still seems like a normal position.
Bishop C4 is the most.
Yeah, I don't
C4
know how Black's
definitely.
going to keep his chances alive here.
Well, I
Well,
mean,
I'm not sure why we're saying that Black's keeping
I
his
think
chances
Carlsen
alive.
is probably not unhappy with the draw in general.
Yeah.
Did he
Bishop
offer a draw?
B7 on the board.
Did he offer a draw? I saw him mumble something. I think he offered him a draw.
The thing is that if Magnus wins this, there's a big chance that he wins everything.
Yeah, but he can also win it in the next
3 rounds
round.
to spare.
Yeah, I don't think he's
That would
thinking
be a
about
bit of a
that anymore.
record.
I don't
This
think he
tournament is
gets
pretty
bonus
much
points
over.
for every round to spare. I mean,
Yeah, he just
but
wants to
the
play some
reason
good
why he's
chess.
thinking is Nepomniachtchi has offered him a draw, and he
Oh, he did?
goes. I think so. I saw him mumble.
Yeah, but Rook
I saw
A7.
Carlsen frowning.
Yeah.
And Nepo looking at him, so it's almost clear that he's offered him a draw. And now we have Rook A7, the world champion, playing on in this position.
Well, it's not so clear that this was a good idea for Nepo. Perhaps after Bishop C6, which looks forced, I'm not really sure what he's thinking. Throwing in B4 just weakens your pawn.
Okay, if I just take on C6 and go G6.
Yeah, that's the issue. I think he
Something
was
like this.
counting on the move Rook C1. I'm not really sure which Rook,
Rook C7.
but then Rook C7 is just about enough to capture this pawn on C6. That'll be an extra pawn.
Can he play B4 first, actually? Because here in this line it would be important. But
With Rook
But again,
C4.
after Rook C4,
Rook C4,
I'm
huh?
basically hitting both of your pawns.
Bishop C6 takes.
So let's remember, Bishop B4, you also have the move Rook C7, a little bit
But now what do you do here?
counterintuitive.
Rook B4.
Rook B4,
Yeah, Rook B4 is okay. You can also take on C6
Yeah.
and go back
Rook
to
B4, Rook
C4.
F5, Rook C4.
because I have back rank
You have
issues.
back rank issues, let's remember that.
Yes.
Like Rook C6, Rook F5, I can immediately play Rook C4.
Bishop C6 on the board. He takes
Yeah.
and G6 as we
G6.
predicted. So Rook C7
Everything
now.
happening as we had discussed.
Just an extra pawn, a very healthy extra pawn.
Still extremely high drawing chances, I think. You can imagine this A pawn that's about to be produced will be
traded.
traded off for the D pawn, and then we have a 3 on 2. So Nepo still with great chances of drawing,
King
but
F7, King E6. He's going to play on.
no, of course. I mean, Black has a big advantage, but
I mean, you're
It's
not
not
trading
winning.
this A with the D very easily.
No, not so easily. But the A pawn is actually a nail. But the king is first in the center, King D5, so he's trying to find some counterplay on the other
I'm actually a
side.
bit surprised about this decision because I thought,
H4 now, trying to simplify the matters on the king
yeah,
side.
this actually looks pretty good. Because you can't really play H5 and allow my king in.
King e6.
If you play king e6, what's your
You can play
progress,
king
right? You can't
e3.
really move the rook from the back rank.
Trying to trade pawns there. That's usually a good idea when you're defending an endgame. I mean, try and exchange pawns. Usually you solve more and more problems. The less pawn, the less problem.
And I think Nepo's done a good job. I think this should just end in a draw.
Well, maybe it was never really more than this.
More than
but,
that, right?
Yeah, but Magnus so comfortably with the black pieces, still the one pushing.
Still
Yeah.
pushing, still has an extra pawn. We expect a player of Nepo's quality to just draw this game, though.
Yeah.
I mean, this rook on a6 just can't leave. It's a big problem.
Time factor is going to tell, though. I mean, it's always a problem, even in quite relatively easy endgames like this one. There's not too much tactic going.
D5 now? D5, rook D1. D5 is a possibility now.
But D5 maybe, yeah. D5 is good.
Yeah, but
actually.
again, we have a structure in the king side where, again, the swap of the pawns will just be some sort of draw. I mean, I can check you and go back to a1.
So he's gone for
Goes
king
to
C4
C4.
first.
I'm starting to think of direct ways of drawing the position. Rook g1 seemed like a draw to me at that point.
But
Forcing you to
D5.
go d5, but the advance of the pawn is not necessarily something scary. You can see that with the move king e4. He's kind of encouraging you to play d5. The
Yeah,
more
but
this
now
pawn
he hasn't-
advances, the easier it is for me to block it off.
Yeah, normally this should end in a draw, and Nepomniachtchi is one of those Russians. You know, he's made these endgames in kindergarten, so it's.
Still needs to be careful, but
Of
totally
course,
agree
yeah.
with you. Move king d5 looks interesting also. Needs to be a little bit careful of that actually working. Rook g1, the original
It's
idea,
probably the
hard to
safest.
defend. No threat on the pawn on g6 because of d5 check.
Yeah, but after king takes a5, for instance, you're probably going
You
to
just
play
trade
like
the
king,
rooks?
king,
Like
king d5.
No, if you trade the rooks, I'm pretty sure
King
that
D5, yeah, that's lost.
g5. But
Yeah.
king takes a5, king d5 should be an immediate draw. There's no way you hold on to your pawns. And I think that's exactly what's going to happen. Also, no good way of making progress except for king c4, but that's his repetition.
h5.
And now he can go king D5. Because now you can trade the rooks.
King d5, he'll probably take on a5 with check,
check.
king takes d6, and try to play that position
But
on.
then you've got your G6 weakness.
I do think that king d4 is much more
Yeah,
accurate. You
prac-
just wait.
Just
From a
threatening rook
practical point of
G6.
view.
Yeah, you just wait. You want the g6 pawn. The d pawn is not important.
You're going to get that
That's it.
g6 pawn.
Yeah. Okay. Is
Takes
there-
on G6.
Well,
I'm not sure what he's thinking here.
he wants to mate him with rook
Rook
b1.
Oh,
And
wait, what?
But there is no mate because of rook
King
king
C4,
c4, rook
C5.
c5.
What?
I'm sorry, but
Why?
what was rook b1?
Okay, he can always just trade off and go king D5, right? That's a draw.
I think he.
Yeah, now just king
Ah,
D5
he's
and
just-
king D6 is a draw.
He was calculating the endgame. Yeah, this is a draw because you
This is
cannot
the
create a pass
simplest
pawn.
way. G5, H5, and my pawn is as strong as yours.
Yeah, well, that's a nervous decision to make in a blitz game like this.
That's
But
it.
they,
Had
And they
to
agreed
make
to a
it,
draw.
and it's a
Both
draw.
players promoting at the same time.